One of the things that I have been struggling with is this concept of God holding the whole nation of Israel responsible for for the actions of its leadership, for people not knowing what they needed to know, to practice what they needed to practice. And then we come to Hosea chapter 2. In Hosea chapter 2, the first line is, "Rebuke your mother, rebuke her, for she is not my wife, and I am not her husband." And so often I think we talk about this as this idea of it not really meaning a whole lot more than they're just talking to Israel again. But as I was looking at it, as I was thinking about it, I was reflecting on it, I began to wrestle with this idea that God is holding the people accountable for the people not holding their leaders accountable. That there's this idea that we often go with: the people are helpless, the people don't have power, the people don't have that authority to move and influence and change its leadership. And I think in a sense that is right, but I think God thinks it's an awful excuse. I think that we see here, especially what's happening in Hosea, and you see here time and time again with the minor prophets and even the major prophets, that God is holding the people responsible for its leadership, but God holds the people responsible for not questioning and influencing the leadership. Because it seems like the people just are blindsided with what's going on. The people are just brought into this space of ignorance, if you will. And I don't think that's the case, because the people know, the people understood where God wanted them to be and what God called them to do. And when their leaders began to not do this, and they became complacent with it, then I believe the people fell into a very, very treacherous pit. One which that was this idea of, well, it doesn't matter. And I think about how this translates into the world today, especially in the church today. So many people in the church just come to church and regularly, and they come and they do their thing, and then they go, and that's it. That's all she wrote. And very, very few people really understand or know about the church and its leaders and how it's run and how things are going, how decisions are made, ministry is done, and how programs are executed, if you will. But this idea is that the church is called to hold its church leaders responsible. Therefore, their participation as a member of the church, as the body of the church, is not such a passive one as it is an active one. An active one in needing to know what's going on and why, and whether or not that is something that they believe is in line with God's plan for the church. Ultimately, there's a vested interest here that the congregants, the people that come in, they come in and they trust the leadership. They trust the leadership to do what is right and what is good, and I think that's a great thing. But I think there's a big difference when people just don't want to be involved and just say people are doing this or people are doing that, and I can just kind of go around and do whatever I want to do. And I think that can be dangerous. I think that's something that we should pay close attention to as we are looking to the life of the church. The people are called to have an active participation in knowing what their church is doing and why. And if people aren't doing that, if people aren't sharing this, they're missing that they have a very vested interest in this result. And that vested interest is God's going to hold the people accountable for not holding their leadership accountable, for not holding their pastors accountable. They're not holding their teachers accountable or their program directors accountable. We have a very real problem with complacency in the church. That things are just going along doing what they're doing, and we hope we remember, but we don't make it a priority is whether or not we're going to be a part of the life of the church. And this is something I think we need to change. And I think it's something that we need to look at and try to remake or carve out a different culture, if you will, as to what it means to be a part of the church, to be an active member of the church, to be someone who is invested, because they know that in the end God's going to be there and God's going to say, what did you do? Not just what you did with your own life, but what did you do with the responsibility that you had as a member of the church? Well, just a thought for today, and I hope that you're having a wonderful day, and I hope to see you soon.